has urged the EU to designate Antifa as a terrorist group. Hungary has demanded that the European Union classify Antifa as a terrorist organization, warning that the loosely organized anti-fascist movement poses a grave threat to public safety across the continent. In a letter sent to EU Foreign Affairs Chief Kaja Kallas on Friday, Foreign Minister Peter Szijjarto said that individuals and networks inspired by Antifa ideology had been involved in violent incidents in Germany, France, Italy, and Hungary itself. In quotes, individuals and groups linked to the so-called Antifa ideology have carried out numerous terrorist attacks across the EU, he wrote in a post on Twitter, where he published excerpts of his letter. This violent far-left network has carried out brutal attacks across Europe, including in Budapest. To our great regret, suspects later avoided justice by finding refuge in EU states, he said. He singled out the case of the Italian activist Ilaria Salis, who was arrested in Budapest in February of 2023 during protests against a commemoration. Salis was later elected to the European Parliament, which ended her house arrest in Hungary. The case of Salis illustrates how Antifa-linked extremists can evade accountability by abusing legal loopholes, he claimed. The Hungarian minister argued that the EU should follow the lead of the US, where President Donald Trump recently designated Antifa as a major terrorist organization. We are convinced that on such a crucial matter, Europe must align its steps with the US, the leading force in the global fight against terrorism, he wrote. Trump also threatened to apply the designation during his first presidency, particularly in response to the 2020 protests after the ending of the life of George Floyd, but stopped short at the time. Antifa, short for anti-fascist, is not a formal organization, but rather a decentralized network of activists and groups that confront far-right and fascist movements, particularly in the US and Europe. Critics of attempts to label Antifa a terrorist organization argue that such measures blur distinctions between violent extremism and legitimate protest, while granting governments sweeping powers to criminalize dissent. So far, EU officials have not publicly responded to the letter. So, what do you think about Hungary's move to designate Antifa as a terrorist organization? What do you think about them wanting to align more closely with the US on this matter? And how do you think this impacts legal protests and dissent from the government, which should be a right? Let me know what you think.